Welcome to my channel. My name is Ray Campbell, and this week on YouTube I'm going to show you how to paint this really pretty project. And if you don't like drawing, don't worry, I even provide you with a free outline that looks like this. Let's get into it. Okay, as you can see, I've already traced down my drawing on my little sheet of watercolour paper here. This is an A6 size postcard and it's from Etcher, and it's a cold press, or also known as a knot surface. Now I'm going to be showing you with the materials that I've chosen today, but of course you can use whatever you want to for this project. The whole purpose of me creating these videos is that anybody can join in no matter what their level, and I'm going to help you to create watercolour paintings that you can be proud of. Okay, so this is the palette that I've chosen today. Just 4 colours from one of my favourite brands, Deep Light. Now all the materials that I'm going to use for this project I'm going to link in the description box underneath. And if you wanted to treat yourself to these particular colours, I've got a discount code, so you might want to check that out in the description box as well. I'm using a couple of brushes. These are both from Rosemary Co, a number 6 spotter. This is a synthetic red dot, and number 2 snowdrop pointed round. This is a brand new one, so it's got this lovely white crisp point, and it's really good for the finer details. I've also got my blender brush, or eradicator as these are called, my eradicator brush, and these are great for tidying up any edges. But as always, use your favourite colours. And I'm going to start by painting the background. The reason I want to do it this way is because I think with that background in place, it's going to help me assess the colours for the little pale lemon coloured plant that we have. Deep Light paints are handmade, and they say to wake them up with a drop of water, so that is what I'm doing. I'm going to begin by mixing one of my favourite colours from the brand, although to be honest, most of them are my favourite. Juniper is the colour that I've chosen for the background. I'm going to provide you with a reference photo as well that I'm just going to use as my guide, and you can grab that along with the outline that I showed you earlier from Patreon, from our free membership level. You don't have to pay for them, they are my gift to you so that you can join in with me here. I've chosen Juniper as the background colour because in the reference photograph the background of the flower has this kind of tone, but I really wanted this kind of teal colour for the background to help the paler colour of the flower stand out, and I really love this colour. I'm going to have 2 puddles because I want to mix a puddle of Juniper and I want a puddle of water on its own. So Juniper in the pan looks very green, and then I'm cleaning my brush, making sure that it's nice and clean, and I'm taking water because I want to work wet in wet. Okay, so I'm going to take my brush with some plain water that's slightly discoloured, but that's okay, and I'm going to take it to the outside edge of my frame. Now if you want to section this off with some washi tape, then go right ahead, but it's good practice to do it this way, because if you're using just plain water and if you do make a mistake, it's not going to matter. As I said, my water is slightly discoloured. It doesn't matter because we're painting a dark colour on top of it, and it also helps you to see where I'm going with the water. Okay, so straight onto that pencil line to begin with. Wet in wet is a great way to start your watercolour paintings. As we approach the flower, I'm going to go down to my smaller brush so that I can get right in between the petals. You don't want to put any water on the petals at all, because when we drop that pigment in, that is where the paint will go. So we want to stay away from the petals. So very gently, as if you're painting with paint, but you're painting with water instead, you need to just get this water around the outside of your little flower like this. Add plenty of water, and then you can just give it a few minutes to sink in. When you're working wet in wet, one of the important things to know is when to drop your pigment onto the paper. If you drop it in too quickly, that paint is going to just float around on the paper and not do anything. And if you go too slow, you're going to have to go back over it. So it's just knowing that moment when it's right to do it, okay? So I'm just pushing that water into that outline like this. And I can see where the paper is glossy. If you go slightly wrong, it doesn't matter. We can make any tweaks later. So I'm just using that brush and pushing it to that line. Now you can see how this pigment has separated in my palette. Notice that greeny tone and the blue tone. Because Juniper is a granulating colour, you'll need to give it a mix as you work through. It's absolutely beautiful. So I'm picking up the colour. Now that my paper has had a minute or two to settle in, you can see it's slightly glossy there. So I'm just taking this pigment and I'm going to just drop it into that. Patting and releasing my brush. I'm actually going to go back to my number 6. It's actually drying quite quickly in the studio today, and that's okay. You're just going to take it to the pencil line, just nice and carefully to the frame first, giving it a mix because this is dual granulation, which makes it really special. Turning my paper around so that I get nice and close to the edge. It's drying quite quickly. Picking up that pigment, just dropping it in. These little postcards that I'm using are from Etcher. They come in a box of about, I don't know, I think about 50. As I approach the flower, going back to my number 2 brush, mixing up that colour, and I'm just taking it and pushing it into the petals. We want this to go up to the petals so that we're negatively painting around them to give them the shape. So gently push it up. We've got that layer of water in place, so it's going to help that paint move around. Nice and easy. And it helps if you can just move your paper around as well. So I'm not keeping the photograph in screen today. It takes up too much real estate on screen sometimes. And because I'm giving it to you for free over on Patreon, you can go and grab it from over there. And it's only a guide anyway. We're not going to be, copying it exactly. I did make a few tweaks to the photo, thinking that it was a little bit too askew when I took the photo. Just grabbing a little bit more of that pigment. So I did tweak it in Photoshop a little bit. But you can grab that and paint along with me on my channel. We'll give them to you so that you can join in with us, okay? Completely free. As I'm painting around this flower, it seems like a good opportunity to let you know that I do have a paid membership level of Patreon as well. I've gone on onto the flower there, but I'm going to tell you how I'm going to sort that out in a second. So if you really want to kind of level up your painting and learn to paint as you paint, we do have a paid membership level. We have a few membership levels on Patreon that you pay for, some more in-depth tutorials. All our tutorials on YouTube are completely free, by the way, and they are full length in their entirety. You do not have to go over to Patreon to pay for the ones that you're getting on YouTube, because these are all completely free. But if you want to level up, let me show you what you can get. If you enjoy my watercolour tutorials here on YouTube, then you're going to love what's waiting for you over on my Patreon. By joining, you'll unlock exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else, packed with tips, techniques and inspiration to help you become a more confident artist. I've created 3 membership tiers so that you can choose the one that fits you best, our Clematis being the most popular, offering all my monthly watercolour tutorials, no matter what level you're at. But if you're serious about improving your painting, our Rose tier is perfect for you because this mentorship level gives you one-on-one video calls with me where we can chat about your progress and troubleshoot any challenges to explore new ways to elevate your art. Finding content on Patreon is super easy now. The Collections tab keeps everything organised by theme or subject, and the handy search bar makes it easy to find exactly what you're looking for. So if you're ready to unlock your creative potential, build your skills and connect with a supportive community, join me on Patreon today. If you're interested in really levelling up, join our Rose membership tier where you can get some one-on-one time with me and also some feedback on up to 4 pieces a month. And There are a few places left, so if you want to join us there, we'd love to see you. I will link it in the description box underneath, okay? Right, so you saw me there making 2 small mistakes, and as always, I'm going to share with you how I would remedy that. So I have rather clumsily put some paint on the paper here, so I'm using a magic eraser, wet, squeezing it out, and then I'm going to use the magic eraser just to remove that, and then with some kitchen paper, pull that away. Now, because magic eraser damages the paper, it's not a good idea to use this on any areas that you're going to be painting over. But in this instance, I knew that I wasn't going to be painting over this part. So it does slightly damage the paper. So if you haven't used them before, then just take care using that. And because I've gone over the petals slightly, I've got 2 options. I can either extend that line so that I'm painting around this shape, or I can try to lift it off with my eradicator. So I would put that into water, pat it on my kitchen paper, and then very gently just erase it that way. Now the issue I have here is because this is a staining colour, it's quite hard for me to lift it out, but I'm going to give it a go and see how we get on. Just very gently and press that dry. So there we have this really interesting looking background. Again, look how that colour has separated in the palette. You can see that dual granulation, and we've got this lovely mottled background for our little flower here. You can see all the different colours in that juniper that I've got. Now, I don't know whether I want to do another layer of this, because it may be that once this has dried, I'm going to add another layer to make it pop off the page. I don't know whether I want to do that at the moment. I'm going to see how it dries and how it looks. I can't do anything now, because if I start to put colours on the flower, this colour will bleed into that, and I don't want that to happen. So I have to be patient and let this dry. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Everything's completely dry, and I was rather silly. I didn't have my microphone switched on for this segment, so I'm having to voice over it, and hopefully everything will be okay. I'm just showing you here those beautiful colours with the granulation of that juniper colour that we talked about earlier, and you can see how it's now settled into that cold press paper, showing off that granulation in its entirety. I think you'll agree it looks really beautiful already, but now we need to think about the colours that we're going to use for the flower itself. I've chosen a colour called Butterfly. I really like this colour. It's quite neutral. If you don't have this colour and you wanted to have something similar, you could choose, I don't know, something like a buff titanium with a little bit of lemon. Notice how I've swatched these colours out from dark to light, and I use this method to match up my colours to my subject. It means that I can see all the tonal values without having to mix lots and lots of different colour charts. I will pin a video to your top of the screen which explains this in more detail and how I match my colours the easy way, so do check that out. You can of course pick any colour that you want to for this flower, but I've chosen this because it's very similar to the photograph that I've used. And notice how my white brush has now gone blue because that juniper is a staining colour. I mean, it doesn't matter to the performance of the brush, but I just thought I'd point that out to you. If that's something that troubles you, then you may want to use a brush that doesn't change colour like this. Okay, so we're starting off with a fairly watery mix of Butterfly. So with my colour mixed, I'm going straight onto the watercolour paper this time. I'm going over the entire thing, and because the background is dry, I'm absolutely fine to go to the edge because it won't bleed into this wet paint. If the background was still wet or damp, the blue would be transferring itself back into that yellow colour, and we don't want that, which is why it's really important that we let our paint dry before applying the next layer. I'm taking this straight onto the watercolour paper, wet on dry, which means I'm not wetting the paper first because I want this to be more of a solid colour, and because it's a smaller area to paint, it's fairly easy to achieve a flat looking colour by just getting this on in this manner. Because it's a small painting, it's fairly easy and fairly stress-free, which is what we want our painting tutorials to be. As I said, I'm using Butterfly for this, but you can use whichever colour you prefer. You could even use, say, a pink colour or maybe a red, anything you like. You see that it is bleeding slightly into that blue where the paper was a little bit damp where I did that lift out earlier, because I'm not being fussy today and because it's just a painting and it doesn't really matter, I'm just going to continue doing it like this. And I'm not bothered by that slight little error. Next up, I'm going to take a tiny bit of Bullfinch and just a tiny bit in my palette there, and I want this to dry down. In other words, I want the water to evaporate. The painting is too wet at the moment to put this in, because as before, if I were to put this in the middle now, it would just bleed into the yellow, the subtle yellow butterfly tone that we've got. So I've got a little bit of that butterfly on the end there. As you can see, I'm pointing to this now on my swatch card. Just picking up a tiny bit of this butterfly. This time, of course, it's got a little less water, so I've got a slightly darker value, as I showed you just now on the swatch card. So a darker value just means the same colour but with less water, and you can see the difference between that first wash and this colour that I'm applying right now. It's exactly the same colour, but it looks slightly different. I'm just dropping it in here and there so that when my paper dries, I've got a rough idea of where to drop the next colour. Just gives things a little bit of a kickstart. I'm picking up a tiny bit of Meadow Green that you can see that I've got mixed up here, and I'm dropping it into the centre of the flower. Now, because the paper is still slightly damp, it's going to give it a slightly blurred look, which is kind of what I was looking for at this point, but we need to add the finer detail once that colour has dried. Here you can see me picking up a tiny bit of Bullfinch, and again I'm just dropping this in at the bottom of this section so that they slightly merge together, again kind of mapping in the colours where I want them to be. With the microphone malfunction hopefully now sorted, we can press on. Okay, so these colours have now dried on my palette, which makes them a lot easier to manage. So I'm picking up this gorgeous Meadow Green. So I want it to be a much thicker consistency, and I'm going around. Let me zoom in so I can get nice and close. I want to go and get a little bit of detail in the middle here. So I'm using the tip of my number 2 Snowdrop Round just to get in the middle. We're not going to be too fussy today. It's all about having fun with paint. Cleaning my brush, go into that now dried up beautiful Bullfinch, and I'm going to just take it to the bottom here, let it merge gently into the Meadow Green. You can see I'm using this patting motion like so, and when I get to this part, what I'm going to do is just pull up 1 or 2 lines to make it look like they're going into the middle of the plant. Okay, so just pull up 1 or 2 lines like this, nice and easy, stress-free painting, which is what we all want. Just this lovely simple flower, and everybody can join in, okay? Actually, I'm going to change brushes. I've decided to use my brand new brush. I treated myself to some Rosemary brushes recently. This is a number 5.0 micro red dot. Taking this brush, looking at the middle of the flower, we can get nice and close just by dragging a few lines here and there. Going back to Bullfinch and going over the lines that I've already applied. So we've got a nice sharp brush now to get these shapes in. Nothing too fussy. Remember, we're all about having fun and just practicing brush strokes and just enjoying the process. Okay, I'm going to go back to this lovely butterfly colour. Just going to mix a tiny bit more, and with this darker value that I've got here, I'm going to start adding a little bit more texture to some of the colours. So we want this to stand out a little bit more, okay? So I'm taking this butterfly, going over the lines I've already applied and adding a bit more detail. Pulling in some shapes, just the same colour, taking it to the outside edge. Like so. Just creating a few easy lines. Anyone can join in with this tutorial, no matter what level you're at in your journey. I make this so that everybody can join in. We're not even sticking to the photo, we're just making this up to create this really pretty flower. So remember to grab your free outline over on Patreon. Taking this colour here, just pulling out a few lines. I will link everything that I'm using today in the description box, as I've already mentioned. And if you did want to treat yourself to these colours that I'm using, I'll put a discount code in there so that you can have a little bit of money off, and we all like saving a bit of money, don't we? Remember, and I'll keep saying it, you don't have to use these colours. I'm using them today because I really love them. But you can paint this in whatever colour that you want to. You can see that just by adding that darker value, we've created form. Really lovely. We can continue this. I'm going to add a bit of Bullfinch. So that's Bullfinch and Butterfly with a tiny bit, sorry, that's Bullfinch, Butterfly and Juniper. And we want to create this kind of greyish tone. Taking off the excess, and with this greyish colour I'm going to go to the base, cleaning my brush and blending this out. So we've just used 4 colours today, and I want to put this on the darker colour here to create this shadow. So even with a handful of colours you can create shape and interest in your painting. Blur that out using this tiny little brush and just creating a different value between these petals so that you can see that it's in shadow. Very, very subtle colours. If you have got a grey that you like, you can use that, but I thought it'd be interesting to mix my own colour. Taking off the excess there, it's a little bit thick. And just having some more at the base. And just over here. Just pulling up those lines. If you are enjoying this video, could I ask you to hit the like button underneath? It's just a way of supporting me, and more people will see it, and it will help me grow my channel. Like I said, we do provide you with a free outline where applicable. Most weeks we use free outlines. There's nothing wrong with drawing it yourself freehand, but my job is to make it easy for you, and not everyone enjoys the drawing element. So we are providing you those for completely free, remember. So just a little thumbs up would help me enormously to show you the love. Thank you. So I'm just using this colour, this made up grey, to work around that little painting. I don't really think it needs much more. Like I said, this is just a lovely, simple, easy project. It wouldn't take you very long. The longest part of it is the drying time. If you wanted to be really fancy, what you could do is mix up some more of that base colour, the colour that you use for your background. If you want to sharpen the outside edge of this, you can. Just to give it that sharpness. Or it may be that you prefer a kind of more loose, taking off, there's a lot of paint on the brush there. I don't want it to be too perfect. The whole point of this is that it looks really, really flowy and natural. I don't want it to be too tidy, but if you do like that look, you can use your favourite small brush. Just to enhance some of the shapes, okay? It's up to you. Just go in between. And this is the opportunity to sharpen up any lines that may be a bit wonky. Just pull them around. And especially around here where I went a little bit askew and I accidentally went onto that. And you can even pull it into the existing lines just to make it look like it's nice and sharp, if that's what you want to do. Just grabbing that paint and pulling it in a little bit, very gently. And whatever's left on the brush, I'm just taking it, maybe just grab a bit more, and just pull it in to create a little bit more variation at the centre where we've got these little lines coming up. So this is just Juniper into that existing colour. And again, I'm just mixing these colours together to create a grey. So we've got all of those colours mixing up to create that grey tone. And again, I just feel like that needs sharpening up a little bit. So remember, you know, you can make it as vibrant as you want to, but my job is to just make it easy for you and get you started on your watercolour journey. Don't want to overdo it because I don't want to lose that lovely buttery colour for our beautiful butterfly. And there we have a really beautiful subtle flower painted with watercolour using just a handful of colours. And it's as simple as that. Do join in with me here. Go over to Patreon, grab your free outline if you'd rather trace it down. And like I said, there's nothing wrong in that. And join our Facebook group. We would love to see your finished paintings over there. Thank you for watching and I'll see you soon.